All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are now live on Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, with Tramaine Williams, author and podcaster. Okay.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Super excited to have you. Welcome back, Facebook community.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
People have no idea what kind of conversation we're about to have tonight. They don't know the kind of energy that we have when we talking, but they about to find out tonight. I'm super excited to bring Tramaine Williams, to you all tonight for this awesome conversation. I know I got you singing and everything. What else I got you? But I'm super excited for you to be here, Tramaine, and for the audience to be able to be introduced to you, to meet you, and just to kind of hear our conversation tonight. We got a few things we've already talked about that we plan to kind of discuss. I'll just say real quickly, briefly about Diverse Minds Consulting, and a meeting of diverse minds. We talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism from a historical perspective. All of the guests that we bring on, share perspectives, have perspectives that we value, that I personally value, that I know that our community needs to hear. I already know I'm going to be asking you to come back again because I know we're not going to get it all out tonight. But, I'm hopeful that, those who are joining in, feel free to, join into the conversation in the chat. We'll both be watching. Feel free to ask questions, and then we'll get right to it. So diversity, equity, inclusion, what is it? A lot of people say DEI. Diversity is simply our difference. On a meeting of diverse minds, we like to focus on the difference of thought that we have. I love to let people know that Black folks are not a monolith. We don't all think the same just because we share the same skin tone. So often, we are reduced to, in the minds of majority culture, to them thinking that, we just can't think, or just that we're all the same, or that we all think the same, believe the same, just as we don't have depth. It's so interesting because I was at a conference here over the weekend, and it was very clear that the gentleman who was speaking to me was kind of wowed and awed as I was speaking, as if like Black people can't think, what I mean? It was kind of offensive, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, too often in, diverse circles, we're often thought of, especially Black and brown people, as if we are these one-dimensional people who don't have the ability to think diversely, to think differently, to think, with depth, you know what I mean? So anyways, we definitely focus on a meeting of diverse minds, the diversity of thought that we have, the fact that we're not all the same, we don't all believe the same, we don't all think the same, we don't all come to the same solutions, we don't have all the same problems. And it's very important for us to incorporate all those. And that just speaks to inclusion. And inclusion is when you are making sure that everyone's voices are at the table, at the foundation of creation, when it comes to laws and ideas and events and whatever, ensuring that every voice is represented, specifically those that are impacted by whatever we're creating. And then equity we recognize as being, recognizing what a person needs and giving that to them, recognizing that equity is not fair. We don't all need the same thing. And when we are equitable, we are ensuring that each person has what they need, which actually speaks to, if we are equitable, then we're not being, frivolous or bad stewards of our resources, because if you're giving everybody the same thing and some people don't need what you're giving them, then that's being a bad steward of the resource, you know what I mean? So anyways, though, I want to make sure that I was live. Okay, all right. Okay, Tramaine.
Yes.
We are excited to have you here, author and podcaster, author of Bright and the Bully,
Yep.
and podcaster of Fat, Broken, Single.
Yeah.
All right, introduce us. We want to know who you are. Who are you?
Man, well, thank you for having me. You already told them my name and kind of some of what I do. Yeah, my name is Tramaine Williams. I'm actually from Albion. And I wrote that book probably like 3 years ago. It's a children's book. It was really just out of a need for my nieces and nephew. They were young and they were looking at superheroes and stuff like that, right? and I wanted to create something that didn't necessarily that didn't necessarily focus so much on the villain or the superhero. I wanted to make it like really look at the bystander, because I think a lot of times, even when we're talking about what we're talking about here, the bystander, the person who's standing on the side and not saying nothing, those are the people who we need to highlight, because we need those people to step up and start to say something. And so as I talk about that, this looking at that, that I accomplished years ago, and I look at what you're doing, and I wanted to say I respect what you do, because these voices and these ideas need to be inputted in places, not just for you as one person, but to get these people on the sidelines to actually start to talk and to express their different voices as well. I mean, I don't really consider myself to be no big social activist or anything, but one thing that I know is that I'm always going to express how it is I feel, and when I feel like something is right, I'm gonna stand for what's right. That's no matter where it's at and who it's with. I just really consider myself to somebody that appreciates truth. And no matter what side it is, I don't care what side it is, I'm going to try to stand on that truthful side. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really paint myself into a box or organization. I just like to stand on the side of truth. And so I got a lot of respect for what it is what you do. I see you week after week coming here and dedicated to your purpose and your mission. And like I said, I just got a lot of respect for that. As far as the podcast, I know the title sounds crazy. It's called Fat Broken Single. I really was just wanting something.
How many of them is true for you? I said, how many of them is true for you?
So at one point in time, all of it was true. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And so I kind of, but the thing about it is, it's not really. It's kind of a play, because the fat part, that's granted. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to broke, I really look at broke as something different, because broke doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have any money in your pocket.
Right.
It could be like broken spirit. It could be broke. I tell I think on episode 2 of my podcast how I was I went from this very motivated man or young man, and I went into church, and I got so devoted to God, I got so devoted to God and to being a worker in the kingdom, that one part of me was broken and that was like my desire to go out and create and to build and to start businesses and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the things that they purposely did to us, to take that out of us. You know what I'm saying? And my pastor was a woman. And I said, at the time, I felt like she could afford to do that, because she had a husband taking care of her. You know what I'm saying? But as a man, I never was supposed to be broke from that standpoint. And so I focused. Yeah, I focus on that. And single. A lot of people think that single is bad, but single, to me, I read a book a long time ago. It says, it was called, I think, Single, Separate, and Married, Life After Divorce, or something like that. And it talked about singleness is the one thing that we should all be striving for, because singleness means that you're a complete person, you're whole, you're unique, and you're whole. Bringing 50-50 to a relationship, you bring 100 and 100.
Right. I love that. And yes.
So even though that name sounds a little crazy, you know what I'm saying? It's
interesting,
I always got a method to my madness. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I love what you just shared, though. Even when I'm thinking about the bystander, it's so relevant. So I absolutely love that the book, Bright and the Bully, is written from the bystander's perspective, or speaking to that person who's standing on the sidelines, because really, I think Martin Luther King said the only thing that evil needs to succeed is for good men to be silent, or something to that effect. You know what I mean? And so many supposedly people who really feel like they're good, are often silent. They're the ones who are standing on the sideline. They're usually not
Yeah.
the antagonist or the protagonist. They're not the main characters in the story. They're the people on the sidelines who are watching and letting it happen. You know what I mean? Like so many
Yeah.
bullies are allowed to kind of be bullies because those people who should stand up to them and say, hey, look, no more, and those are generally the bigger crowd. Those are watching. You know what I mean? That's the
Absolutely.
crowd. That's the people who, if they join forces, I like to say it's stronger together. I also put on my page often the people in power. How did I forget my own saying? There's more power in the people. There's more power in the people than the people in power. You know what I mean? So there's more power in the people than so it's a few of us who are sitting at tables that may be decision-making tables, but those who are not sitting at those tables, those who put us at those tables, they actually have the power. So I absolutely love that you wrote a book about the bystander, you know what I mean? And how they need to get involved, how they need to be the ones that are saying, hey, look, no longer are you going to be a bully, and I'm going to provide support, because a lot of times bullies are bullies because they've been bullied, you know what I mean? And they're kind of responding from that area, that insecurity, you know what I mean? And then those that are being bullied, they're obviously allowing it from being bullied, from a place of not knowing how to. But if we had people who were standing on both sides of those protagonist antagonist groups, saying to the bully, we're going to get you help because that's what you kind of need, and then the one who's being bullied, we're going to get you help because you need that, then we would have a much better world. Just speak to that a little bit if you want to. I do have some people saying, where can we get the book from too? Just so you know, we definitely want to point them in the right direction. Do you have a website or?
Yeah, it's twrightbooks.com. You could go there or you could just order it from Amazon. Either way, it's going to take you to Amazon. But if you go there, that's my author's page, and you can kind of see like some of the interviews I've had. I spoke at colleges and spoke at different places like that,
Repeat that.
But yeah, no,
one more time.
It's twrightbooks.com.
Okay.
And but yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I used to do some volunteering up at a school up in Lansing, and that was one of the things that always stood out to me, because like for me, as growing up, I was always like the person that wanted to be on the underdog side, and because I was a big dude, like nobody would never, like, I never got bullied, I never got picked on. So like it wasn't like, my story isn't like how some of those people was like, I used to get picked on so much that I wanted to write about. Nah, because I was the person that would actually go after the bully. You know what I'm saying? And even though I don't make the story to be one of such where a person is going to, like vigilante style, I'm just really talking about, because this is for children. This is a children's book. If we stick together and we have the same mind that, none of us is going to take this, like you said, the bully can't win. The reason why the bully can always win is because that one person is always isolated.
Yes.
He's always out there by himself. But when you know that, you got a squad behind you, it's not going to happen. And so that's the way that I look at it, and I saw that time and time again when it came to bullying. I one time I saw this one girl stand up for another child, and after she did that, it shifted the whole narrative.
Wow.
And so I said, man, you know what? I gotta write something about that.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Yeah, I love that. That's absolutely powerful. When we think about, I don't know that I've ever thought of a book that will come from the bystander position, but if anything, that's almost, more important in my opinion than, speaking from the position of being a bully, or even from the position of being bullied, because that's where the power's at. It's in the bystander. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many more. So I'm like, I'm sitting here all wild, like, excuse me for being wild, but I am wild.
Yeah, I mean, and I always like to do things that's not like, that's not the popular way of doing things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I think that those things that are not popular, I think there's a lot that you could take from them, because a lot of people not talking about that from that standpoint. And so that was the reason I did it. I do have another book coming out.
Okay.
And this one is not a children's book. It's going to be like young adult, to adult. It's called Trey, product of the culture. And what that book is that book actually focuses on my life. I didn't want to make it a memoir because, you know, I wanted to protect those people in the book. I want to
Oh, you ain't giving no names out.
I give no name. But, you know, bro, I've seen a lot growing up with a single mother, growing up in the projects, you know what I mean? Went from selling drugs to doing all kind of other stuff, you know what I mean? And to really just meeting some key people in my life that helped me to change my life around, for me finding the Most High. And so I put that, I'm putting that in a book. And, you know, it's not like, it's not the typical like come to Jesus type book either, because I really talk about this thing from a real life standpoint. You know, I mean, I try to put like real stuff in there, and it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you do all of that. I just got to finish it and then publish it. So y'all be looking out for that too.
Yeah, I'm totally interested. I mean, if it's anything, you know, innovative and creative like Bright and the Bully, you know, which I know it will be, I'm definitely wanting to read Trey, you know what I mean? Because that's just so unique to come from that perspective, you know what I mean? So I know that the next one's going to be very good. I'm thinking about your podcast though, Fat Broken Single, which I have listened to several podcast episodes. I love listening to episodes and, you know, podcasts and stuff. And I appreciate listening to yours. I appreciate your perspective. But going back to that title, you know, just the way that you know, why you, like you said, there's always a method to your madness. There's a reason for each of those words. I'm thinking about broken, just how you said, you know, when you went to church and just the brokenness that was kind of, I don't know if it was introduced to you or it was kind of, you know, this is the way that you ought to be, you know, the teachings that were given. But when I think about being broken from just kind of, so speak a little more to just that, if you would, you know, just what that broke was meaning, you know, what you meant by that.
Well, see, a part of it, I mean, see, and I don't really never take anything away from the journey. You know, I say that life is Mr. Miyagi, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who know anything about the Karate Kid means that, you know, Mr. Miyagi was teaching Danielson how to wax the floor, you know, how to paint the fence, how to wax the car, all those different things. And he didn't know that he was learning. So when it came down to it, he was like, I'm ready to quit. And then he was like, and he blocked, you know, and so he started doing all those different things. But what he found in that moment is that I've been learning the whole time, right?
Yes.
And see, that's what life is, you know what I'm saying? And so I don't regret nothing when I talk about these kind of things, but I want to be very open and transparent about like what it is, where I was and where I'm at now, you know, compared to that, right? So going into that, again, I said that I came from the streets, you know what I'm saying? I was out here selling drugs. I had all of the wrong mindset, you know what I mean? Because that's what I knew. I just knew how to be hustling and doing whatever it took to get money. And so when I came into the church, I found that, you know what I'm saying, I had been serving myself, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about nobody else. And all of these things are absolutely right, you know? But the one thing that I got so connected to reading the scriptures and only the scriptures, I didn't look at the parts of the scripture where some of these men, even though they forsake their old lives, they still, some of these people, they still had wealth, you know what I'm saying? They weren't opposed to wealth, you know what I'm saying? It says that the borrower is a slave to the lender, you know what I'm saying? And so me just getting a job at Star Commonwealth, sitting there, you know, for years and years, not really even thinking about really no real advancement, you know what I mean? I had really lost my drive because I had a very strong drive. I was so money motivated, you know, and instead of looking at it and saying that money is the root of all evil, it's not really the money, it's the love of money that the scripture is talking about. That's when you worship it, and that means that you're willing to do anything for it, right? But I wasn't thinking about none of that, and so I kind of just became this docile person. I really wasn't docile in spirit. I mean, like, I wasn't docile where I was like a pushover, but I didn't care about none of those.
Never that.
But I didn't care about none of those things, you know what I'm saying? And so years later, you know, when I started to get a deeper understanding, you know what I'm saying, I started to see those things in error, right? I did a podcast with my friend, the Intentional Millionaire. You know what I'm saying? We're both the same age. We're in our 40s, and he's a millionaire and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? But I took a lot of years off from pursuing being a millionaire.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't that I didn't. It's not that being a millionaire is even the goal. Is this to like having something in place where you can have a legacy and where you can transfer. You know what I'm saying? Like Black people, we the bottom of the barrel. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have no wealth, we don't have nothing changing over and stuff like that. And this is the thing that's not being talked about in a lot of churches. You know, these are the things that's being that's took away from us, right? And so we're preached one way, even though they're not preaching and telling you not to. You know, it's like omission, kind of leaving that part out. You know what I'm saying? It's been fed to us a different kind of way. And so I didn't go that deep into it on my podcast when it comes to broken, but I did talk about it from that standpoint. And it was the thinking was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. Even when just when you're talking about being broke, and in that way, just I love even too how you just started it out by saying, that life is a journey and all the things that we deal with and that we experience, these lessons, when we get them, we don't regret the spaces that we, that journey that we've had to take to get these lessons, you know what I mean? So even when we do speak about, some of the harms that may have been, that might have been perpetuated in certain spaces, it did teach us lessons, that we learned that we could take with us and have made us better human beings now. So even when I think about just being broken in the way that you were, I think back to my church going days, and some of the things that, weren't encouraged or that I didn't realize I should even be a part of would be even in the social justice sector. So we were very much a group of people who, focused on basically getting to heaven, so our whole thing was basically get ready for heaven. And so because of that, we weren't very much earthly good. Now, there were a few anomalies, around us who, focused on some things that, dealt with earth and, in that space. That was kind of like the terminology. But most of us were just trying to get to heaven, so everything that's going around, it was just like blinders, you know what I mean? And so because of that, even when I was able to separate myself from that, I could see that wasn't healthy, you know what I mean, for me or for any of us really, while we're here, we need to be trying to make a difference and, in this world to make it better, you know what I mean? So I definitely can just kind of relate to that, you know what I mean?
Well, and that outlook is usually really more geared towards the Black church, that's not what I see, because I went to a lot of white churches as well. That's not what I see from the white church standpoint. That's usually just church that's teaching us that way,
Which
and
is not surprising when you consider
slavery. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
And I don't want to make this whole a whole what's wrong with the church speech, because that'll be a whole different show. But
we gonna have it too, and we gonna have that show too.
That's one of the things though, because I'm not trying to be like anti anything, because like I said, I don't regret what I don't regret my life, what I mean?
Yes.
And I learned so much, and there's so many different things that I took from that experience, but I just feel like it's other things that needed to be added to it. It's a different mindset that can be imparted into the way that I was looking at it, because it's not like that across the board. It's usually just like that. That's with the Black church.
Yeah. Even thinking about, just that. So like I said, I do appreciate that, you keep highlighting the fact that, there's no regret or even, disdain or anything for that, just, but being able to acknowledge that, that wasn't healthy. I think it's a good thing for us to do, but even in acknowledging that, when we think about, like you said, you have a friend who's your age, who's a millionaire, and you lost out on all those years of being able to build that. because you were in this unsafe, in this unhealthy situation that, where you were, with these teachings that were not healthy for us, So I think it's good for us to, be able to acknowledge those things, bring them out, and, and then have a conversation on it, so that those who are looking on, no one situation that a person is in, no one experience that a person is in is the be all, have all. Like if you're in a church, if you're in, and I guess church might be the, one of the easiest ways to describe it, because a lot of times they are kind of, closed off, and separated. If you're in this one space, and you're not having any other thoughts or any other diversity, any other difference to kind of round out your world, you do get, closed off into something that's not healthy. You miss out on opportunities. You miss out on what you ought to be doing. Like, all my life I've loved my people and our experiences and our way of life, and have always wanted to have a huge part in that. But for a long time, it was so unencouraged and so discouraged in the space that I was in, that I was just very limited in what I was willing to do, because it was frowned upon, but then when I was able to separate myself from that, and then be involved in what I like to do, now here I am having these shows, because this is what I love to do, so it's just.
Well, a lot of that is stem from the fact that people don't want to be offensive to other people, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's one of the big underlying things in the church. Like whenever I speak truth to anything, even when it comes to like a topic like white Jesus being fake, you know what I'm saying? Like not being a real thing. Like I mean, come on, bro. Like that is absolutely a lie. And a lot of the Black pastors don't want me to talk like that because they feel like it's going to be offensive to other people. But the very scriptures that I read is offensive to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the truth can be offensive, and it doesn't mean that I'm trying to harm or to be offensive to people. It just is what it is. And the only people who's going to be offended by it is people who don't want truth. And see, that's one of the problems that I've always had, was that you can't tell me that we stand on truth if you're not willing to speak to the truth, right? And so that's another one of the issues that I have. But like even if we take this away from the church, because you said the church is one of the groups that you can see this in. I have a phrase that I'll be saying, it's called organizationalism, right? Because I think that we as people are always trying to find something to belong to, right? And so we get into these organizations and we turn a blind eye to everything that they have wrong, right? And so I don't care if it's politics, if it's toxic liberalism, if it's toxic conservatism. You know what I'm saying? Because I always say it's toxic. We say toxic to everything else. What about toxic liberalism, toxic conservatism? Like those things are real things. You know what I'm saying? These people out here and it's like you get into one of these groups and you lose your mind, like everything goes. That means that I can't speak up. Like, no, I'm not. Like, we are the worst people to sit quiet. Why would we quiet when we're at the bottom? Why would we stay quiet when things are wrong and we're at the bottom? And these things are what's keeping us at the bottom. You understand what I'm saying? Like I always feel like I don't really have a side, because both sides hate me when I talk about certain things. Like if I'm talking about this over here, you mad at me. If I go over here, you mad at me. Where do I belong? I'm like, where do I belong?
You ain't got no group. You ain't got no club to belong to. You all out there by yourself. But that's so true.
Hey.
Even when I think about this politics myself, because I love voting and love just participating in that whole democratic process, because I think it's just something that we ought to do. And so I've done it my whole entire ability, life that I could. So 18 on. And I always say that I'm an independent voter. I'm not fully Democrat. I'm not fully Republican. I'm not. What'd you say?
Me too.
Yeah,
I said me too. That's what I consider myself.
Yeah, an independent voter, because again, like you said, we're in all these different groups, or all these different groups that are there, all have something that's not so healthy in them, and if we're unwilling and unable to call them out, and stand on truth, even like when we talk about DEI. So, I'll kind of bring it there because, the show, a lot of, I'm constantly, I had one mentor, woman who I look to as a mentor. She said, I wish the DEI would just die, and I'm like, yes, I agree with you. You know what I mean? I wish the DEI would just die too, because it's been so corrupted. It's been so, it's so diluted and so, but like anything that is challenging white supremacy and, white mainstream culture, anything that's challenging it, it always gets diluted and gets corrupted, because again, it doesn't want to be challenged. It doesn't want to be changed. It doesn't want, you know what I mean? So I like, challenge. I like diversity of thought. I like disagreement, because I think it just makes us better and stronger individuals in whatever we're dealing with. I like it that, we can say to them, look, whatever you're involved in, don't be so married to whatever it is that you can't, consider the harm that it perpetuates, that you can't call it out and that you can't stand against it when and if necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And,
so I wanted to
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, and I think I mentioned this to you, but that was one of the things. Like I had never really heard of the term DEI, until Sonia actually sent me your link, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the things that I tend to always struggle with when I hear people talking from a social justice viewpoint is like I struggle with anything that mixes the fights, right?
Yes.
So like,
yes.
so like, as a Black person, we go ahead and we mix the fight, and then next thing you know, what it kind of does is it assumes that everybody has the same fight or everybody started at the same place.
Right.
When we know that's absolutely not the case, right?
Correct. Right.
And so what I see oftentimes I see Black people fighting fighting this fight, right? And then they go and they join another cause, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they join this cause, they join that cause, and next thing you know, those people winning, and the Black people, they leave them high, leave us high and dry, right?
Yes.
I mean, we could talk about Asians, we could talk about Jewish, we could talk about the Native American, we could talk about even the woman's right and the LGBT. Yes. Like for me, all those things are really separating us as Black people.
Yes.
Right. And so if we're going to have any type of unity, if we're going to have any uniformity in any chance to do anything, we can't be separated into have the same fight.
Yes.
We don't have the same fight. Those people they don't ride for us like we ride for them. I mean, if you look at the civil rights, you know what I'm saying? We fought for everybody. Everybody else jumped on board, right?
Yep.
Even when we talk about people from overseas, even other Blacks like Nigeria, they over here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they be flourishing. They come over here and take.
Uh-oh. You still there, Tramaine? Uh-oh. I'm hoping that you'll come back on, that we can, okay, looks like Tramaine jumped out. I'm hoping that he'll jump back in. But okay, there he is coming back. Okay, there you are. You back.
Can you hear me?
Yep, it clicked out for just a minute. The last thing we heard was just that, even like Nigerians are coming over here and they're prospering,
Yeah. I mean, all of the different groups prosper. Every foreigner that comes over here, they do, right? And it's not that I'm against all of these different people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when we divide our fight to hop on their fight and they don't lend us any kind of hand, like how is that going to ever help us? What I see right now is I see Black women and Black men divided.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as simple as that. You know what I'm saying? And no woman's rights group is going to help you as a Black woman to really get to the place that you need to be. The only thing that's happening right now, as I see, is it's taking away the Black family. You know what I'm saying? It's taking
Yep.
Black men and Black women from each other. You know,
Yeah.
it's like causing a divide. And so I think if we was to ever going to be able to really compete, we need to be together, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we can't make Black men to be docile, neutral, like, you know what I'm saying?
No. You gotta stand up.
less of a person, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so all of these different things is like different things that I have, you know, like people of color. I never use the word people of color.
Yes.
I'd rather just say Black, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm Black. And I ain't
you're
gonna be
right.
sitting up, I'm not for political correctness. I'm not gonna be everywhere talking about people of color everywhere. Like
Right.
that's not me.
Right.
And look, again, I'm not against nobody.
Right.
I'm down. Like, hey, we can go hang out. We can do all different things. Anybody. But when it
Yes.
comes to these fights, I know y'all ain't fighting for me like I'm fighting, like
Oh,
we've
yeah.
been fighting. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
You're right. You're right. You know.
Because everybody is for self-preservation.
Yes.
You know, they
Yes.
leave you by the wayside real quick. We talk.
Yes.
I mean, on this show, I always be talking about different books.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they like, what was the book called? They were hers. They was her. I think it's called They Were Hers, and it talked about how white women, how much of an impact, how much they had slaves, how they had slaves, and
Yes.
all of the different stuff. You know what I'm saying? It talked about how they became white, how the Irish man became white. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All of these different situations, you can read these books and you can see the history, and you be like, man,
Yes.
this is crazy. We just don't be knowing anything, because a lot of times we don't read. A lot of times we purposely taught to not look at things that way. Again, the church is teaching us not to say nothing like that, because it's gonna be offensive, and God loves everybody, all this different stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sitting up here talking, but I'm not a social
you know, we people don't know, we always have very good conversations, and too often, and I won't say too often, but more often, we agree with each other. You know, even when we're thinking about DEI, and just like you said, you know, Black folks, we do fight for everybody, and we do, you know, we are always at the forefront of the fight. We're the fighters, you know, because probably we're at the bottom of the barrel, you know what I mean, and we're always trying to get a way up. And I really believe, you know, and we probably shouldn't say this on air. So if y'all hear it on air and y'all like, oh my gosh, she said it on air, you just act like you didn't. No, I'm just kidding. But but even I really believe that a lot of why we, you know, kind of include everyone else is because really that's the only way we feel like oftentimes that we can get forward, you know, that we can get ahead, that we can, you know, because a lot of times it's unfortunately, you know, our white brothers and sisters, you know, those that could be considered our brothers and sisters, because a lot of them cannot be considered that. They're not brothers and sisters to us, you know what I mean? But a lot of times they're not supportive, you know what I mean? But I do think that a lot of it has to do with that. And I also believe that definitely dilutes the message. So I actually do love diversity, equity, and inclusion, and anti-racism. When I first started talking about DEI, a lot of it had to do with, you know, trying to make space for myself, you know what I mean? Really just make space for me. But then as I continued talking about it, just, you know, for a year or so, I was like, I got to add anti-racism in there. That's got to be a part of my title, because they need to understand that the foundation of all these isms comes from Black hatred. White people hating Black people. You know, I need them to understand that. And so a lot of even Diverse Minds Consulting, my own business, my main focus is not DEI. My main focus is anti-racism, primarily because Black hatred is the foundation of all these other isms. And if we fix that, then we have a framework to work from to fix all these other isms. You know what I mean? So I don't focus on, even at the city, you know, I chair the Racial Equity Commission, and it's racial equity. I was very specific when I was asking for that to be created, because I said, you know, I don't want us focusing on LGBTQ. Now, again, LGBTQ folks, you know, we love them. You know what I'm saying? They're people, they're humans. They, you know, they deserve all of our love and attention and care. But my focus has to be on anti-racism, because it's so big all by itself. And even, you know, in our city, we have an LGBTQ person, you know, again, who works on that. We had people who work on just human relations, you know, just kind of relationship stuff. And I said, they're not the people to be fighting racism. They're not the people to talk about racial equity, because if we simply a group of people who are saying we need to be nice to everybody, God loves everybody, we're not hitting the mark. You know, we got to have a group saying, you know, white supremacy is wrong. This is how it shows up. This is how it looks. And this is how we dismantle and defeat it. You know, not just, you know, let's give out book bags, which has its place. You know what I'm saying? Human relations has its place. Let's give out book bags. Let's, you know, have breakfasts and dinners to honor different people in our community who are pushing great ideas forward. But that's not the end all be all. That doesn't get to the heart of white supremacy and racism. So I said, we got to have a racial equity group alone. Because again, I agree with you. We do need to focus on ourselves. We do need to, and I love that even as well, as far as, you know, saying Black, you know, versus people of color. For a while, I had started saying people of color because I'm like, okay, you know, I
don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah, and then I recognize the fight of our, you know, Hispanic brothers and sisters, the fight of our Indigenous brothers and sisters. But again, like you said, we don't all start from the same place. You know what I mean? We are not all even viewed the same. Some Hispanics can be considered white and do try to pass for white. You know what I'm saying? And they want to pass for white. Where we're like, Black folks, we can't pass for nothing, and we don't want to either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our fight is different. You know,
I dated a Hispanic woman. Her dad was Hispanic and her mom was Puerto Rican. Her dad felt like they were white, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the Puerto Rican woman kind of more felt like, you know what I'm saying, like they more identified with Black, you know what I'm saying? But he didn't really like me that much because I was Black, you know what I'm saying? And so like for me, it's not that I'm not like really like I'm all for basic human rights for everybody.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So when I say I won't fight, I'm gonna fight for basic human rights. Like I ain't saying that I'm heartless, you know what I mean?
Right.
But and so like what you're doing, like I said, I respect it because I mean these things need to be talked about in the workforce and in corporate America and stuff like that. I know one time I started a job, this was years ago, and I started with a group of people and it was an older white couple, right? Both of us was in training and we had to train for like a whole 2 weeks straight, right? We were getting CDLs. And we went through this whole thing. I'm talking about we were going out to lunch, you know what I'm saying, every day, like, you know what I'm saying, like we were building up this great, you know, camaraderie, having this good camaraderie, you know what I'm saying, like we were like it was cool, you know what I'm saying,
right?
And one day they started the day before me, so one day I end up telling them that I wasn't feeling well, and so I didn't want to do the work outside. I wasn't gonna come in and do the work outside. I was just gonna come in a little bit later, and I was gonna do my test later. And the supervisor was like, "Yeah, that's cool. You know, you could do that." And so the night before, there was a shooting up on Broadwell Street here in Albion, right? And so I come in. Now, mind you, we have a very strict, you know, background check, you know what I mean? Like you can't get into this place with no smut on your record. And so I come in late. I'm like 2 hours late. They said, "Oh, Tramaine, we're so glad to see you. We thought you were involved in that shooting up there on Broadwell. We thought you might have got." They thought that I might have been involved with the shooting up on Broadwell Street.
Wow, because you're a Black man.
Listen, I'm talking about I'm full churched out, like, you know what I'm saying. Everything.
That's when you was in deep.
Everything.
You was in deep at that. You was in deep then.
I mean, right. What I'm saying is like I always live my life from a moral standpoint, like.
Yeah.
But I was more, you know, like I was literally like talking to them about the Lord and everything, like, you know what I'm saying, like.
You had your cross on, you know what I'm saying?
No, I didn't do that, you know what I'm saying? But they knew though. They knew. Yeah. And they still saw me as some thug that could have been up there. And see, that's the kind of stuff that like they didn't even really understand it. You know what I mean? Like they really feel like they good people. You know what I'm saying? And to their credit, to some extent, they are decent people. Yeah. But it's just that they have a warped understanding because this is what the world has shown us about Black people, about Black men. And so
Yeah.
I could never sit up there and act like this work isn't needed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It's just that I always wonder when we're doing the work, how deep do you actually have to get when it comes to like corporate America and stuff, in order to till you get to the point where you're not effective no more, because
Yep.
you letting all of this other stuff come in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes. Yes.
that's my struggle with when it comes to doing the work. And like I said, I don't title myself as this. I just title myself as like being somebody who's willing to speak the truth and,
Yeah.
and to be a voice when I can, you know. So
Yep. I love
yeah.
that though. Even, thinking about just that experience with your coworkers, and even recognizing that while they are good people, that's also why, I'm real particular when it comes on Diverse Minds Consulting and a meeting of diverse minds. I say, Black lives and Black experience needs to be leading, this change. So even in the DEI world, if people ask, and I'm quick to let them know, no, white folks don't need to be doing this. Even Hispanic people and, other people of color, who don't really have this in their genealogy, it's not in their blood, because again, like you said, this speaks to those different experiences that we don't all start from the same place.
Yeah.
The story of how Hispanics and different other people, people of color groups got to America, it's not the same as Black people, and even our Nigerian brothers and sisters who may come over here, they're not qualified to lead this type of change,
Right.
because again, like you said, when you get to talking about this work in these organizations and these businesses, oftentimes they don't go far enough, because they don't have this history in them, so they do dilute DEI, they do dilute anti-racism, and they're not qualified to lead. So I'm very quick to say, lived experience needs to be leading change. And so many, it's so interesting because I just actually happened to be reading today on Facebook, got on, and a gentleman I know, he had shared a picture of a group of individuals who was doing some Juneteenth show or something like that. And one of the commenters on his post said something like, it's those white people who are bad. And this person was a white person. It's those white people it's the people up top who got the real issue, the white people up top. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, so often, our white brothers and sisters feel like, it's not me. When in actuality, maybe you're not, it's always the same. You don't recognize that you actually are the problem. I'm just gonna say it real simple like it's easy just to say it like that. It's just, in actuality, those white people who think it's those white people, you're actually part of that problem too. You're actually, because a lot of times they're the bystanders who are not talking. They're the bystanders who have not done the work to find their own racism, their own, how they're perpetuating it, how they're harming, how they're diluting DEI, and they're the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like me, my brother, and my other bro, Jacob. Jacob is a white guy. He lives. He might be on here right now because I sent it to him. But he lives in Florida, and we have a text thread that me and my brother and Jacob, we go back and forth every day. Different topics. We text people in different things, and he's never coming from the standpoint of like. I mean, it's more like I'm just a part of the conversation. Like this my bros. We just sitting up here. Like I'm just gonna like he's not trying to be something that he's not. He's not trying to get up there and be in the front. You know what I mean? He let up like when it's these kind of topics, he want to know how we really feel about it. You know what I'm saying? He's really trying to listen and hear what we trying to hear about it. And it ain't that he just gonna be like, oh, all soft and bow down to us. Like that ain't what we asking for. We just like we just friends in a group. Like, you know what I'm saying? But he not getting offended when some stuff come out that's obviously true. Sometimes he's sending us stuff like, man, look at this bull crap. And it's not like, I'm not like them. Like I'm not proud and I'm not like them, you know what I'm saying? It's just because he started to see a lot of his own ways, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's the kind of stuff that I respect, you know what I mean? I don't even respect people who try to be something other than they not. I like people to be who they are. And if you do have racist tendencies. I don't want you to be sitting up here and acting like you ain't bro. You know, hey bro,
Right.
nah, bro, just be yourself.
Yeah, because we see it anyways.
Yeah, I can
You know what I'm
respect that
saying?
more.
You know, we see it anyways. And you're so right. It's
And
so
you can
yeah,
learn more when you
yes.
just be yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Because now you're being honest. You know what I mean? Now you're being
Yeah.
honest to, now you're in a place of honesty. So many, and that's part of, one of the issues when it comes to DEI and anti-racism work, when we're talking to white people specifically, the culture of whiteness is, it holds a lot of dishonesty. They don't want you to know true history. They don't want you to know, who they are, how they came up, even the scalping of Indians. That was a white tradition that was actually created. That was a white practice that was created. Whereas when we were in school, we were taught that Indians were the ones who were scalping because they were barbarians and whatever, you know what I mean? But this dishonesty is it's white culture. It's who they are. So it's very easy for them to deny their own racist tendencies, which they can't help but have when you consider the world that we've grown up in, the nation, the society we've grown up in. So oftentimes when white people are trying to separate themselves from those white people, it's kind of a turnoff. I mean, it's really like, no, and the fact that you were actually trying to separate yourself and just not being honest about, because you haven't reached that level of awareness, or you just choose to be dishonest, or whatever the case is, it's really a turnoff. And it's also a huge red flag. Like, yep, you're a problem. I can see that when things go down, you about to be Karen. You're gonna be Karen. That's who you're gonna be when when stuff hit the fan. Karen is coming out. You know what I mean? And that's also, I think, too, why when we us focusing on our issues is important, because even when we think about communities who deal with being othered, oftentimes when they are members of the dominant race, as soon as we get into it, they go back to being the dominant race first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? So you might also have another identity that so I'm always a Black woman. I can't be a Black woman in this. No, whereas some people who are members of different groups, and if they white, they can go back to being white first.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, and that's why I said it about about joining up to different things, because Hispanics do that a lot too.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I know that I've had a lot of different Hispanic friends and stuff like that, and some of those people aren't because they were maybe because where they were raised and stuff like that. But like, if you look at a lot of their family and stuff like that, they'll flip-flop real quick. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the girl that I was dealing with, her parents ain't even like, her daddy ain't like me. Like, nah, I don't want you like with no Black dude. You know what I'm saying? Like this. Right. He felt like they were white, because they can in some instances like
pass,
just going into the whiteness. Yeah.
It's that light skin privilege. You know what I mean? It's that light skin privilege that and that silky hair privilege. Because it can pass. You can pass. And honestly, unfortunately and accurately, historically, white people are just more comfortable with people who are closer to how they look. You know what I mean? They just So
I just think more. I think it's more like they've adopted them in as far as the political from a political standpoint, because I'm not from some of these cities where it's like a big Hispanic population, but what I do hear, like, police do be treating them real bad too, like, you know what I'm saying? So it ain't that they I don't really feel like it's just that they light skin. It's just that when I could use you as a political party, like, you know what I'm saying, we gonna do that, and so I think that's more what it is. And like I said, they all have struggles, you know what I'm saying, but I just feel like I'm not gonna be sitting up there being on the front lines for it, if because I don't feel like it's gonna be reciprocated, you know what I mean?
Without a doubt, it's definitely not, it's not. So, and we're speaking in generalities, generals, you know what I mean? Generally speaking, they're not fighting for us like we fight for them, period. You know what I mean? Now we know that there are a few there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always, some, a brown person who, or saying some white person who's actually authentic, who's actually, down for the cause, who's, doing their own work. There's always an exception, but generally speaking, as a rule, the larger group, there's been no consistency in their willingness to join forces with us and just fight for our cause and our cause alone. Where for us, we're always trying to fight for them all. I do think that, part of it has to do with their ability to pass, among other things, among other things, it's never just one dimensional or, it's always nuanced. There's always.
Yeah, it is. You're right about that. You're right about that. And before we end, like I always tell people, because we talk from a Black standpoint because I'm pro-Black doesn't mean I'm anti-white. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Hispanic. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Asian. None of those different things, it's just that I believe that everybody else put their groups first, what I'm saying? And I think that we should start doing that in order for us to start building wealth, in order for us to start gaining some kind of unity. We need to start doing that. We need to see ourselves. I need to look at you and like, that's my sister. If I can help her out, if she got a business, I'm gonna go support her business. If she got this, I'm gonna check and see if she can help me out first. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that it's important to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. 100%. I love even ending the conversation on that note that, pro-Black does not mean that we are, anti anything else, but pro-Black does mean that, we recognize, and I agree with you 100% when it comes to pro-Black, as much as I talk DEI, that's why I talk also anti-racism, because, I am pro-Black. I am this person that's saying, I recognize that, we're at the bottom of the barrel. I sit on a few different spaces, tables, and I'm constantly talking about the issue and the data surrounding Black people. Because, because I recognize that, we at the bottom and we ain't got to be, and nobody else is talking about us, somebody got to talk about us, somebody has to be committed to, to bringing us up, to bringing our issues up and to alleviating them, and if we don't, who will? And I agree with you as well, it doesn't mean that we're anti anything else, and they gonna fight for their own, so why can't we fight for our own? Why is that a problem? Any last words, Tramaine, you want to share?
I just say it's been a good conversation and I look forward to more. When you first asked me, what did I say? I said, why you asked me to do it?
You important. I said you's important. You got something people need to hear.
you kind of checked me on that, and
yes, I did.
This is my first time really. I do these things by myself. I over the years I've got on video and said what I had to say, but this is my first time just like doing this kind of interview where we're talking about this specific area. So I appreciate you for having me on. And again, it was a great conversation, and I look forward to more.
Thank you so much, Tramaine. I'll end by just saying that it's super important to me that we have Black and brown representation, Black specifically voices on, Black issues, diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, and just the issues that surround it. I'm very intentional about making sure that Black voices are the ones that are leading in that conversation. So you'll notice that that's generally the only people that you've seen on here thus far. Again, pro-Black does not mean that I'm any anti anything or any person or any group, but our voices need to be leading in this space, and everything that we deal with, when it comes to DEI, anti-racism, it relates to every part of our lives. From the podcasts that we create, the books that we write, anybody who's aware of and recognizing, that Blackness needs to lead, I need to have their voices elevated, because I learned from you, people, I haven't said that already, but you've taught me a lot, Tramaine, you've taught me a lot. You've guided me in different directions, in different ways, that I'm very grateful for even today. You sent me a text message that gave me more knowledge on how I need to, kind of move forward. And I feel like we as a community, we need to be supportive of each other. We need to uplift each other's voices, and we need to, make sure that we are, together. I want us to know as a community that Black folks need to stick together. We just do. We should critique each other. We should support each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So thank you, Tramaine, you know, for being there for me as well. You know what I mean? I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, and that's exactly what you're saying is what I feel like we all have an obligation to do. No matter if you consider yourself a social justice person, no matter what, I think this as human beings, we should all be doing that. But especially when it comes to us as Black people here in America, that has this same shared experience. I think that we
Yes,
should be doing this all the time. You know what I mean?
yes,
And and
yes.
and, and I do that when I can, but perhaps I could even do that more. You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate you even saying that, because that makes me know that, you know, my good works isn't in vain.
Oh no, not at all. No, I value. That's why I checked you when I was like, when you come on, like, why you want me? I'm like, what you mean? Why I want you is important. Thank you all so much for joining another meeting of Diverse Minds with Keisha Hamilton. We have had the amazing Tramaine Williams on here, author of Bright and the Bully. Another one coming out, Trey, and also podcaster of Fat Broken Single, which you can find on, I know Spotify has it.
Yeah, on most streaming platforms, on all except for Apple. For some reason, Apple I haven't even been able to get it picked up by Apple.
Okay, so all the streaming podcasts, look for Fat Broken Single. His website is twrightbooks.com. Check that out as well to order his books. You can also get it on Amazon. I'm so grateful for you joining us, Tramaine, and thank you all in the audience for being here. Join us again in a couple weeks for another amazing person.
Hey,
Yep.
but it's TW Bright, TW
T
Bright Books, BRIGHT. Like my pen name is TW Bright when I come
okay.
to children's book. Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. So TW Bright, and I'll put that in the notes, is the comments as well, so that you all can get to that easier. twbrightbooks.com.
Yep.
Okay, twbrightbooks.com. All right, thank you all so much. Again, meet us in a couple weeks for another amazing conversation of a meeting of diverse minds. Bye.